Hey there, Peter Temis, founder and president of the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations. I want to share a quick thought with you about some of our research findings around this new idea that we call secular innovation. Here's how to frame it. 50 years ago, the question of what innovation in large organizations was generally answered by folks saying, well, we invent new stuff. And maybe as we progressed and got smarter, people would say, well, we invent new things, we have a lot of intellectual property, we have patents, we do this new stuff, and when we invent something new, we have at least a temporary monopoly, gives us more pricing power. That was innovation. And it worked well in the world 50 years ago. We got smarter and we started talking about, okay, now it's not just products and services that we're reinventing. Now we're looking at improving processes because they scale really well. And the discipline of process innovation became really more important. And we always had this notion that there's this thing called business model innovation, which is about how to get paid differently, how to get value out to your customers in different ways. Also interesting, we do a lot more of that today because of some maturing technologies. But through this all, folks running innovation, whether it was called R&D or strategy or innovation, tended to think that their innovation teams, their strategy teams, their R&D teams, needed to be the ones to create the new knowledge, to create the new insights, the new products, the new services, the improvement in processes, and the new business models. That has changed fundamentally. Think about this. When you bought a Croc, remember those Crocs, right? Very cool, new kind of sandals. $1 billion organization because of a new way to do that. That was something that the Crocs people invented. Today, there's not a $1 billion gain that most large organizations even want. That's about that new thing they invented and they keep. We work with, about 200 of the world's largest organizations. They're always talking about innovation. That's the business that we're in. What those folks are much more concerned about now is, how does AI change what we're doing? We were talking with the largest bank in England not that long ago. The folks there said, we've finally done enough testing and investing. We know artificial intelligence will change our business dramatically. It will not only save us money, which it does now, it will be driving billions of dollars of revenue for us, but we don't understand how that's going to happen. We don't know enough about that. So we need to mobilize what's happening outside the firm to create value inside the firm, and that's always an indirect kind of value because ultimately you're talking about creating value for your customer. Here's what secular innovation is. It's not inventing something new, be it a product, a process, or a business model. It's deploying what's been invented outside your firm in the most high value creating way for your firm and your customers. That's secular innovation. It's the difference between hiring the guy and the gal who can come in and get in there with the test tubes and eureka, create something new, and hiring the important smart person and the important smart team that can be interpreters for your organization of what this new artificial intelligence thing is that's been built not even by a bunch of geniuses elsewhere, but that's been built almost civilizationally, right? Like the pyramids, layer upon layer upon layer. And most of it's happened outside your firm. Secular innovation is about deploying new technologies, new approaches to business that originate outside. And it's not just crowdsourcing and bringing in the smart people who you don't have. It's about participating in this very broad, industry-wide or culture and civilization-wide development of new ways to do things that create lots of value. We saw a recent wave of this, start 25 years ago, with HTML. How do you tame this beast of the internet that the American government began investing in through DARPA after World War II? And as it's matured and matured because of things happening, at CERN in Switzerland and things happening at University of Illinois over here, and small armies of tens of thousands of the world's smartest people over decades, it matures, it catalyzes. Now what's your firm's web strategy? That's secular innovation. AI, obviously, in this moment, very, very big component. This thing has been building, right? Artificial intelligence goes back to the early days of the 20th century. Many of the smartest people in the world, small armies of tens of thousands over decades building it, and the momentum has been building, and now, son of a gun, you can use it. You can get TensorFlow from Google. You have these tools that are the tools of that old scientific notion of standing on the shoulders of giants, tools that have been built by folks over generations. Here's the salient takeaway for secular innovation. It's driven very much by people, and those people are different from the kinds of people who worked in big organizations and created most of the value for generations. When you look at the rise even of UIUX, right? User interface, user experience, that really was a discipline that grew, and then firms had to kind of get it in that secular mode and bring it in. The key people who were the best at it first worked at a university, then they worked at the research lab, then they worked for HP, then they worked for Microsoft, maybe they worked for Apple, and then they went to Uber. You can see the chain. It's very interesting. They go from hot company to hot company. They pick up a little bit of wealth on the way if they are the best in the world. Not, I need someone who really knows AI, but I need the 1% of the 1% who are that good, right? Where are they now? Maybe they're at Google, maybe they're at AWS, made tons of money. Why do they stay in those firms? They don't need to go to work anymore, most of them. And the answer is they have a loyalty, not to their employer, but to that professional thought community of the 200, the 500, maybe the 2,000 best AI scientists in the world. They can go anywhere, and they do go anywhere. So how does your organization get value from someone like that if you're lucky enough to be able to recruit them and bring them in? Two answers to that. One answer is you need to give them a very different career path. Those folks tend to stay at a firm for about 2 years. And I'm talking about the best in the world, but your firm needs someone that good, at least for a little while, to come in and help you understand what the heck this is and recruit others who might not be top 1% of 1%, but let's call them top 5%, so they can start building a team that will give you that long-term value. Typically, they're going to stay 2 years. Then another hot firm pops up, they get an offer they can't refuse, and off they go. Unfortunately, and we worked, for example, with General Motors as they were grappling with this, they can't get out of that 30-year career path that they have, right? They can't say to someone who might come in, and I could mention a couple of names of people who we worked with there who really are so good, who stayed 2 years. They gave them great packages. These folks are curious people. They want to see how this giant old line manufacturing company works. They come in, they create value, they contribute value, and just as they know the firm well enough, just as folks around this giant organization know who they are and what they do, someone picks up the phone and says, hey man, we're from this new thing that you've been reading about in the paper, and we've got lots of options to give you, and you'll start learning again at that rapid pace because we are so new, and they're gone. GM can't get out of that 30-year model. They try. Maybe now they've tuned it to the point that it's a 15-year model with milestones that just when you think you might want to leave, keep you because they're so exciting. Instead, they need a 5-year career path. You can keep a lot of these people for 5 years. What does that mean? It means you give them comp that matures just at year 2. And then you give them bigger comp, bigger gains that mature if they stay another year or 2. It means you give them freedom and autonomy and recruiting power so that the team that they have begins to mature at year 2 and they're less reluctant to leave. And it means when they leave in 5 years, you wish them well. You don't imply that they're making a mistake. You keep them a little bit inside, a little bit outside. And that's the second best practice. You can look across the industry at some famous names, people who were, I'm not going to name him, but the lead designer at Apple, a guy like Steve Jobs says, listen, man, I want you because you're the best in the world. Chief designer says, okay, but I'm making so much money consulting with my new design organization. And Jobs says, I don't care. All I care about is what you contribute here. You allow half in, half out. That is really hard for traditional big firms to do. Interestingly, they used to do it circa World War II. You'd have the partner at the big law firm also being the general counsel, at U.S. Steel, full-time, lots of value created because that person was half in and half out. We've fallen away from that as the corporation matured into the model that settled in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We need to get back to that because of this idea of secular innovation. There's lots more to say about this. We have lots more we'd love to contribute if you want to pick up the phone and have a conversation with us. And if you're a part of the ILO Institute, the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations, you know we're talking about this across the table. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.